Bad habits that can damage your brain. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we've come up with a brand new video for you that will tell you all about the bad habits in one's day-to-day lives that are damaging the brain. So without wasting any time, let's get straight to the chase. Number 1. Staying in the dark too much. The first bad habit, staying in the dark too much. Know that not everyone is Batman, because it's a known fact that darkness and depression are two things that are associated with each other. However, that doesn't come without reason, because not only does darkness symbolize depression, it also induces it. We know this from a study that was conducted by the National Academy of Sciences, which found out what light deprivation can do to a person. The neuroscientists at the University of Pennsylvania did an experiment in which they kept rats in the dark for 6 weeks. Not only did the rats start to exhibit depressive behavior, but they also seemed to have suffered damage in certain regions of the brain that are also active in humans during depression. The scientists realized that the neurons that seemed to produce the good-feeling hormones, such as norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin, were dying. Not only that, some other neurotransmitter that are usually involved in emotion, pleasure, and cognition also seem to start dying. The death of these neurons seemed to be occurring in the areas where there were synaptic connections. Gary Aston-Jones, the principal investigator at the Medical University of South Carolina, speculates that this neural change must be because of the circadian system being disturbed when normal light isn't received. Number 2. Lack of stimulating thoughts. Another thing that can lead to brain damage is the lack of stimulating thoughts. If I were to put it in an easier way, it would mean not thinking enough. Let me make this easier for you to understand how not thinking leads to brain shrinkage. So let's assume there's this guy Joe, and he's a muscular build, goes to the gym 6 times a week. However, he suddenly stops. Slowly and gradually, you'll notice Joe lose all his muscle mass. Similarly, the brain is a muscle too, and its exercise can only be done by reading, thinking, writing, and speaking. If you don't do enough of them, then eventually your brain will shrink faster than the average human. The part of the brain that shrinks is responsible for connecting your central nervous system. Due to this shrinkage, the connections between neurons start to decrease, and it can result in many complications such as memory problems, experiencing difficulty in communication, difficulty when reading something, inflammation of the brain, and decreased blood flow in the brain. I guess in the end, school does have some benefits after all, such as not letting your brain shrink to the size of a baseball. Number 3. Consuming alcohol. I think it's a global fact now that alcohol is not good for you. Right after the first 1 or 2 shots, you start to have difficulty walking straight, your vision gets blurry, reaction time is slow, and you have no memory of what you did, so clearly the brain comes under heavy trauma after drinking. While the effects of 1 or 2 shots may not last for a lifetime, it definitely does for a heavy drinker. However, we are still quite unsure of the full effects of high alcohol consumption. Is alcohol only responsible for some memory slips or mental conditions that last a lifetime? We have no concrete evidence of that. However, many physicians speculate that alcohol consumption is responsible for it after all. One thing we do know for sure is the more alcohol consumed, the more the cells in your brain die. This is because it leads to chemical imbalances, and when the imbalance is consistent for a prolonged period of time, something definitely goes wrong inside of your brain. Number 4. No exercise. It might come as a shock to you, but surprise, surprise, not exercising your body enough can also lead to brain damage. As Gen Z and millennials, most of us do nothing but lie or sit down all day long. According to research, the average sitting time for an adult is 6.5 hours per day. And a study conducted back in 2018 by PLOS found that too much sitting affects the area of the brain that is linked with memory. The test observed the medial temporal lobe by using MRI scans on people from ages 45 to 75, and then compared it with people who sat the longest. The research found that the people that used to sit more had a thinner medial temporal lobe. Interestingly, MTL is the part that is responsible for making memories, so if you don't want to be lying on your deathbed having no flashbacks of the most beautiful moments of your life, then you better start exercising. Number 5. Skipping breakfast. Another interesting thing that you may not know is that skipping breakfast or having low-quality breakfast can also lead to a decline in cognitive function. Due to this cognitive decline, you become less responsive to your surroundings and have low energy levels. If you have a little bit of knowledge of the human body, then you must know that all of our body runs on glucose. All the extra glucose is converted into glycogen and stored in the body. However, when we wake up in the morning, the glycogen levels are low. So the mind needs glucose to function, and that glucose can only come through eating a good breakfast, which will power your brain by stabilizing your blood glucose levels. Usually, the brain performs the best when the glucose level ranges from 80 to 120 milligrams per deciliter. That's why breakfast is said to be the most important meal of the day, because it sets your energy levels for the rest of the day. Number 6. Smoking. Smoking is one of the leading factors in brain damage, along with other diseases. This is because cigarettes contain nicotine. Apart from the damage that smoking induces upon the lungs and the heart due to the tar inside it, nicotine plays a major role in affecting the brain. This is because the chemical is able to mimic what other neurotransmitters can do. It sends dopamine signals to the brain, causing a feel-good sensation for the smoker by releasing dopamine. This changes your brain as it becomes heavily reliant on nicotine to send the dopamine signals. So whenever you try to leave smoking, you start to feel the withdrawal symptoms that include anxiety, irritability, and a strong craving for nicotine. Some of the common effects of smoking on the brain due to heavy reliance on nicotine are cognitive decline. You become more forgetful. Increased risk of dementia. Due to cognitive decline, it's more likely that you'll get dementia. Loss of brain volume. According to researchers, smokers have negatively affected the structural integrity of subcortical brain regions. The cognitive decline due to aging also seemed to be at a much faster rate as compared to those that didn't smoke. Number 7. Lack of socializing. As humans, we are social animals and we require social interaction. Even the most introverted of us require social interaction. Without it, we seem to get lonely and depressed. Feeling lonely can easily steer one into depression, putting them at a higher risk for Alzheimer's, and can accelerate cognitive decline. According to a study in 2021, people that were less socially active lost more of the brain's gray matter. The gray matter is the outer layer that is responsible for processing information. A lack of social interaction could also lead to chronic low-grade inflammation, and that inflammation can be the cause of several cardiovascular diseases, cancer, diabetes, and some other conditions. Number 8. Inadequate sleep. Another problem with Generation Z and Millennials is their lack of sleep. While some aren't given the privilege to get their optimum amount of sleep due to the sheer amount of work they have to do, several youngsters simply spend too much time binging TV shows, scrolling through Instagram, or watching YouTube for hours on end. Due to this, almost everyone in this day and age is not getting enough sleep. Because of this, we've found a decline in skills that are related to cognitive performance, such as memory, reasoning, and problem solving. However, the solution to this isn't simply sleeping more, but rather trying to give yourself more time to sleep. That may not make sense verbally, so let me put it in another way. If you go to bed at 10, then go to bed at 9 this time, so that you can give your body and mind some extra time to relax. And when you do wake up, don't turn on your digital gadgets and start looking what sort of work you have to do, but rather do something productive, like reading a book or simply admiring the silence every once in a while. Number 9. Stress. Stress is another one of the leading factors when it comes to brain damage. Let me tell you about two forms of stress. One being premature stress and the other being chronic stress. Let's talk about premature stress. Stress is a part of everyday life. All of us experience it. However, when it gets to the point of inhibiting your everyday tasks, feeling nervous before a competition or an important aspect of your life is normal. However, making it so much so that it starts to drastically affect the quality of your life is called premature stress. This hinders the functioning of your brain and makes you feel depressed, frustrated, angry, and irritable. Plus, it also lessens your sleep. The best way you can get rid of this form of stress is by seeking help from a professional. Another form of stress is chronic stress. As the name suggests, it is a much more serious form of stress, and not only does it kill brain cells, but it also shrinks the prefrontal cortex, the area that is responsible for memory and learning. Often, a major source of trigger for this stress is the my way or highway approach that many adults take. Apart from seeking professional help, another thing you could do is be flexible with your emotions. If you feel like you're about to be upset, then take a step back, reevaluate the situation, and remind yourself that not everything is in your control. You don't always know what's best for you. Let nature run its course at times. Number 10. Blasting your headphones. Most of you may not have heard of this fact. However, if you're someone with a habit of blasting your headphones and listening to music, then you definitely must have felt the effect of it on your ears. They start to hurt, and at some point you just can't hear any more music. However, many of us go past that point by ignoring the pain and vibing to it. Even if you were to listen to music for 30 minutes straight, it would start causing hearing damage. But aren't we talking about brain damage? So how does deteriorated hearing relate to brain damage? Well, it relates to brain damage because those that have a hearing problem are more susceptible to Alzheimer's disease. Some researchers have speculated that this is due to the brain putting more and more effort into hearing rather than storing memories of whatever is being heard. So if you plan to keep those ears and brain intact, then you better start keeping your headphone volume at safer levels and don't use it for a prolonged period of time. That's it for the video, my friends. Hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. If you did, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on any new uploads, and thus can learn more and more interesting facts about the world and yourself. If you have any queries, then just put them down in the comments section. We'll try to answer to the best of our abilities. Until then, see you later and stay tuned for more.